Hello, once more. I would like us to discuss on something quite interesting today, and my discussion is titled Culture. Most often, people misinterpret this word known as culture. There are so many people who misinterpret culture. Some say culture is of bad influence, some say culture is evil. Some say culture it's not a good practice. Like if you get to individuals, you will see that many individuals have different points of views regarding culture. They have different perspectives about culture. But my question today is, what are your own perspectives about this culture? What do you think about culture? Is culture an evil practice? Is culture bad? Should we continue to practice, connect with our culture and respect culture? These are some crucial things that I came for us to discuss on tonight. For me, firstly, I would say culture is not a bad thing. As an African, culture is another way of identifying ourselves. A good example is our cultural regalia or our traditional regalias. When we put on the traditional regalia is an identity, and we can call it a cultural attire. Another good example is our traditional indigenous milk. Like I come from the Bafut community, our indigenous milk is known as Achu, which also makes me to understand that Achu, most often when people talk Achu, people would try to remember Bafut. Another example is like Fufukon. Sometimes when people talk about Fufukon, some people will think of Banso and many other places. So we just see our traditional milk as a way also of identifying ourselves, which is also classified under what culture. We call it a traditional milk, but we know that it is something that represents our culture because it is a traditional milk. And one thing that people often misinterpret about this culture is that we have traditional practices that they are not good, and we have traditional practices that they are cultural practices. This is where most people often go wrong. They take culture and they misinterpret in the place of what traditional practices. I came tonight to give us all these clarifications that culture it's not bad. I often say as an African lady, my culture is my identity. I often say as an African woman, my culture is my pride. I often say I come from a cultural background. Culture also is another word for nature. We Africans, we believe in nature, and if we are connecting to culture because it is nature. When we talk of nature, it is something natural, something that we did not fabricate it, something that we did not created it, but it came as a result of who we are. Like looking at the environment of Africa today, Africa is very natural. Did we create the natural environment? No. We grew up, we found ourselves being surrounded by nature, such as trees, grass, and a lot of things. Did we plant the grass? No. So that is nature. I just want to make you understand that culture is part of nature. It is a way that God created it. Even in the Bible, when you go to Rome, you see that the Romans, they had an attire. When you visit churches sometimes, you see the chief priests, they have a particular attire that they wear. When you go to places at times, you see some people will prefer to wash their hands and eat directly with their hands, which they see it as a cultural practice. So why then do some of us think that culture is bad? Culture is not bad. As an African or as who you are, this is the time to connect back to your roots. Connect back to culture. Respect culture. Respect nature. Through culture, your identity is seen. Remember that a person without a culture is a person with a lost identity. Remember that a person without a culture is a person without an identical what foundation of their ancestors. So connect back to your culture. Stop thinking that culture is bad. Thank you.